When we're recording. All right, we are live, people.
Okay, I would like to call tonight's regularly scheduled school board meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, September 6th. It is 6 o'clock. First action item is we would like to call an executive session. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Okay, we are calling an executive session.
First was Amanda, second was Carrie.
Second was Carrie, sorry.
Sorry about that.
We're calling an executive session to discuss confidential school security matters and making those public may jeopardize public safety. So it falls under the rules of executive session per state. So if everyone is in favor of moving to executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're going to go to executive session.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Connor. Okay, at this time, I would like someone, I'd like to make a request to return to regular session. Get a motion on that.
So moved.
Second.
All right, first by Tim, second by Amanda. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes. All right, up first, we've got our Pledge of Allegiance. Tanya, can you lead us in the pledge tonight?
Over there.
The flag is in the back of the room.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we do have a quorum tonight. All 7 board members are present. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the opportunity for public comment. The board encourages public expression. At board meetings, speaker may comment on matters related to any agenda item. The board will not permit in public session discussion involving individual district personnel or students. Persons wishing to discuss matters involving individual district personnel or students should present their comments and or concerns to the superintendent during regular business hours. All speakers are to conduct themselves in a civil manner. Personal attacks, obscene language, libel statements, threats of violence, statements advocating racial, religious, or other forms of prejudice will not be tolerated. Time allocated for public comment is 30 minutes with the option to extend by vote. There's a 3 to 5 minute allotment per speaker. We offer a comment period at the beginning and at the end of our meetings. But generally we do not receive comments at special board meetings. We do ask you to identify yourself by name and address before you speak. So, if anyone would like to make a public comment, the floor is all yours. Don't all jump at once. Okay, does not look like we have anyone here for public comment tonight. So we will move on. Next item up is item D, approval of the minutes from our August 16th meeting. Can I get a motion on that? First Tanya, second by Carrie. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the August 16th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Up next, I'm going to pass it over to Eric for his superintendent update.
I will be very brief tonight because I know a lot of people have families to get to and school to start tomorrow. And I invited some special guests that will be part of my presentation tonight. But before I start, just wanted to say a big thank you to our Board of Education and specifically Danielle Fleckenstein and Carrie Brogan for your opening remarks on day one. It was greatly appreciated and sincere. And when we talk about a strategic plan and a whole district getting involved from the Board of Ed down to be talking about relationships, connections, and learning was really critical and important. And we love what you had to say. So sincerely thank you both.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. The one point that I was hoping to make before the start of school, I sent out a notice today to encourage our families to take the bus. Please put your kids on the bus. As many phone calls as I get from Waterman and State Street parents about the traffic jam on East Street and all of the concerns and dangers of not being able to access our buildings, in security meetings with our first responders in the community, from fire department to local police. They share our concerns that when the entire village is jammed up with school drop-off and pickup traffic, it's become a safety concern. All the transportation restrictions have been lifted. The buses are safe, they're reliable, they're on time. Please put your kids on the bus and it will solve a lot of our traffic and security concerns for the coming school year. So please put your kids on the bus. At At that point, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Cohen here, who's going to introduce some of the critical summer work and some of our awesome teachers that did that work over July and August. Thank you, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, and thanks for having me, Board. It's good to see you all. So we are going to be brief in the spirit of getting everybody home. And the major message that I'd really just like to get out is how busy we were this summer. We had a lot of teachers and a lot of students on campus doing a lot of work, so I just want to honor and celebrate some of that with you all tonight. So the three big buckets of work that got done this summer were summer curriculum and professional development, adults only, talking about what we can do better or learn for next year. Summer camps, where we have students and their families electing to come do some really fun extracurricular activities. And our Summer Ready to Rise program, which was to help students who might need a little more help with math or reading over the summer. Framing everything we do is our mission and vision, newly focused, beautifully so, and just to share that really quickly, I think you'll see evidence of this in the work as we go through it, that at our core, what we're looking for is developing strong relationships, forming meaningful connections, and exploring multiple pathways for lifelong learning. And that when you see our summer camps, our summer curriculum work, and Summer Ready to Rise program, answering for yourself, is this the sort of place that supports learning, growing, working, and living? So starting off with our summer camps, at a high level overview, we had 8 different camps this summer, 128 students, not bad. You'll see camps are full at 20. So the Waterman camps pretty much sold out, which is typical for us. State Street was a little lower. That's also typical. There are other things that students as they get older can do. We're competing with the Y and the Country Club and the Works Camp. Waterman, we have a monopoly on those kids. They're excited to be here. So generally very happy with our turnout of camps. We had a retirement of Sue Berry, so Mary Texera, our new high school art teacher, actually did the Waterman and State Street art camps, did a beautiful job for us. We had not yet hired our new elementary art teacher. We did some coding and robotics. Mrs. Wolford was actually going to come talk about one of those camps with us, but she's sick. So I can't take her place entirely. But at a very high level, we had a K-2 camp that Chrissy Brown did, and a 3-5 camp that Ellen Wolford taught. Both of them played with code.org or Code Monkey to do some coding, and then we bought, with some support from the Minneapolis Education Foundation, who we'd like to thank, some new robotics equipment that's now consistent K-12. So Chrissy Brown used VEX 123 equipment at Waterman. Ellen Wolford used a slightly higher level robotics equipment, VEX Go at State Street. Scott Stagnita has switched to the middle school from a Lego robotics school to a VEX robotics school. It's a little less expensive, and you can put more motors on your robot, so it's more dynamic for less money. Sold all day, every day. And the high school uses the highest level of VEX equipment in our new robotics and automation course at the high school and some of our Project Lead the Way courses. So really excited to try out for the very first time, breaking in some of the new websites we're going to be trying to incorporate during the school year, and some of the new equipment that we're trying to roll out also. It was a great opportunity for the teachers to use it for the first time and for kids to play with it. We had 2 STEM camps. Mary Fussner did STEM camps with our Waterman students, and Tammy Wriggling did a neat, I think it was Blast Off Exploring Rockets and Rovers, was the summer's camp at State Street. And I'm going to invite Ms. Kate Webster to talk about our world language camp.
Hi everybody.
I'm going to say the words, you can see me on the screen. I love world language camp because the kids are 6th grade, K through 6, and none of them are taller than me, so this is sort of lovely. I've been running world language for years now. I was trying to count the way I couldn't, it's been a long time. I typically run world language camp at Amy for me. She does a week of Italian, I do a week of Spanish, and we play off of each other. This year she was unavailable for the 2nd week, so I ran Spanish camp alone, but we've got a good system going. So typically camp, we do, as I said, K through 6 all together in one group, and it's mainly cultural activities that we strive for. In the past, we would take a country every day and try to get a craft, a sport, some sort of activity, and food, you know, the food is huge. We did do the same thing this year, only this year, instead of a country every day, we opted more for a theme every day, and I gotta tell you, every year that we do this camp, something sort of magical happens in a different way. This year, we had 12 kids, and I was like, ooh, 12, I would love to see more kids, but you guys. This was the most family group I have ever seen. The very first day, we had a 6th grader. We were all, we come in, we sit in our little circle and eat some chocolate and have jam. And we were trying to nail down the pronunciation of the double R. I don't know if you can go, but you can and you can't. And I had a little 6-year-old boy who just went, and it was like a dog when he sees his tail for the first time. You know what I mean? Like, what? So immediately all the kids, they're looking at him like, wait. It was just the coolest thing. Immediately it was the first day. So after that, this little family had 2 6th graders and a bunch of 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, who were absolutely on a journey. It was the coolest experience. So professionally, it's something I look forward to. I teach high school and middle school, which I love. But then you get a 6-year-old. And it's a whole different experience, and it really just injects a lot of enthusiasm into what I do. So throughout the week, they traveled to Spain. They had a Tomatina tomato fight. We used water balloons, not real tomatoes. I mean, I thought about it, but they learned to salsa dance. They learned, I think the biggest and most important thing every year that comes out of it is they just loosen up and have a good time. They're unintimidated by doing something kind of crazy, even if it's something as simple as pedal. So it was a wonderful year at World Language Camp. This picture is that we made personal pinatas one day. We were looking at celebrations, around the world, celebrations of this and that. So who doesn't like a pinata,
I think I saw you all racing down the hall.
We did do some races. Yes, so I mentioned we do crafts, we do food, we do something active. And vocabulary acquisition, I kind of missed the big one because I was talking about the other food. But yes, vocabulary acquisition, we do relay races, find the word, connect the word, match the word, find a partner. We played a lot vocabulary bingo with the chalk outside. You probably, if you were around State Street and saw some interesting chalk words and drawings and bingo boards and all kinds of things out there for kids to stomp on words and put the letters and the names and all of the things together. So. We had a lot of fun, and I think fun sounds like such a silly, glossy term, but that's really what it is. It's fun and it's enthusiasm, and they learn so much. It's amazing by the end. So they were chatting with the people in the office by Friday, introducing the word chocolate. It's not like chocolate, right? But sharing food, saying Spanish words to the ladies in the office, and they came a long way in a week. So it was a beautiful thing. Aside from, again, the culture, but the social, the family aspect this year was pretty outstanding. So I could talk all day. But I will let you go. So thank you.
Your enthusiasm was
Infectious.
obvious and it's wonderful.
School tomorrow. I gotta tone it down, all right?
Oh, I'm pretty excited. Don't you worry.
That was toned down. You should see the kids.
And if you give Jennifer Wolfinger our best, that would be happy to.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So maybe slightly less exciting than Mrs. Webster. Some of the adult work, I put that one in the middle, with our summer curriculum projects. about 140 teachers, teaching assistants, nurses, adults in the buildings were in over the summer. 118 unique projects. That's not all of them. I just put up 4 so you can see we did some special ed related stuff, some technology related stuff, ELA with Wit and Wisdom and other related ELA projects. And we did some math and science stuff also. So it's just 4 things that went on over the summer. About 5,200 hours worth of work was done over our 40 days off in July and August. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of teachers that came in. Teachers do not get the summer off. We are busy over the summer. And I will turn it over to Mrs. Ward to start talking about some of the literacy stuff that happened.
I have 5 pages of notes. I'm here today to talk about our summer professional learning related to ELA instruction. But first, I'd like to highlight a few important milestones from the 2021-22 school year that prepped us for our summer work. So during the 2021-22 school year, grades 3 through 8 continued the implementation of the Wit and Wisdom program, where there was ongoing support through step backs and team meetings. K2 teachers did a book study called Shifting the Balance, where we closely looked at literacy research to reevaluate our current practices and embrace new possibilities for our literacy instruction. Also in K2, we began to look at geodes and small group instruction, where I was able to pilot the geodes from January until May in 2nd grade.
Quick question, and I don't want to interrupt you, but what's a geode?
So a geode is our guided small group of books that we use on the text. So this session, it supported our teachers to apply what they've learned about early literacy research related to text selection for emerging readers, and how to prepare for students' needs and flexible approaches to grouping for instruction. Then in April, our trainer Stella joined us, and we began to launch Wit and Wisdom, where we were introduced to the Wit and Wisdom curriculum, including the research, learning design, approaches to knowledge building, use of complex text, and module and lesson components. And then in June, the K2 teachers all piloted what they call Module 0, where we took a little deeper dive into the program and actually saw the different components and were able to try it out before the end of the school year. Then, as we transitioned to the summer 22, did I really reach that one? As we transitioned to the summer 2022, we focused on the natural next steps to support our learning and implementation of instruction for the upcoming school year. So this summer, the K through 8 team, we had Wit and Wisdom module and lesson study. Again, our trainer Stella came back in August, where we spent a day looking at the entire program and how we can implement this and the technology and resources that go along with this program. She also did some reboot geos, small group instruction. I'll share our geos with you. We continued support for small group instruction and new teachers. We also worked with Katie Sojewicz a couple of days this summer to talk about literacy assessments and family engagement. We reviewed our current literacy assessments to determine to consider how we will capture students' progress, consider the instructional implications, and how the information will be shared out with families in light of the shifts we have made to our literacy instruction for the upcoming school year. And we also talked about planning a fall family engagement session to kind of bring the community in to see what this new program is, share what a geo looks like, how we will share out, the age questions, my child at grade level. It's a new thing, so to share out the information. We also looked at the testing and the Wit and Wisdom. That was for grades 3 through 8, where they deepened their understanding of the demands of the statewide ELA assessments, the research on effective approaches to test preparation to ways Wit and Wisdom prepare students for statewide ELA assessments. And finally, we had some ELA team planning time with our grade levels to prioritize and plan for instruction and application to the practice. So, we've done a lot of work this summer in Wit and Wisdom, unpacked a lot of books. So now it's time to learn and apply. And we thank you for all of your support.
Thank you so
Can
much.
I ask a question?
Yes.
So as a classroom teacher, who just went through all of that training, and it sounds like a lot, do you feel like you are better prepared for the school year? And I'm not trying to ask a little question, but it seems like you guys put a lot of time in it. Do you feel better going into tomorrow with all of that work that you put in?
Yeah, it's a new program. There's a lot of components. We talked a lot today about failing forward. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn from our mistakes. We'll do better, you know. So yeah, definitely prepared. Ready? Rip the Band-Aid off. We're going.
Thank you.
Just another huge thank you to our administrators and our teachers that were able to be here tonight to kick us all off. And a shameless plug for our strategic plan that'll be approved tonight. When you talk about investing in human capital, which was one of our 4 priority areas that the community identified, this is the example. 50 to 100 hours of professional development over the summer is tremendous. So thank you for everybody's hard work. Right.
And so I'm going to turn it over to Margaret Sisson to talk about some math summer work that happened in a second. I just wanted to highlight, as much as Mrs. Webster talked about relationships, I think you heard Mrs. Ward talk a lot about learning, the adult learning that will hopefully lead to the student learning this school year. But it's just as important, right? When we know better, we do better. And there's a lot of learning going on that I think came across quite well there. So thank you, Mrs. Ward. And I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
So that's a nice segue. I'm Margaret Sisson. I teach 4th grade. And Brian, as he said, with the learning, what we did for math this summer was really a focus on our learning of how the results of the NERC test can help us learn what we can do to better our instruction. So Brian creates for us, once the results are posted or released, and this is cumbersome in how it looks, but basically our district percent here, it shows our percentage of passing according to different questions that are released, and then the RIC percentage, and then the gap to the RIC, meaning the average passing was 7%, so anything that's above 7 we excelled in, anything that's below we look at as an area to get better at. This is a little bit more focused for us as teachers. So you can see Brian has separated it into units now. So now we can look more specifically at questions that we excelled in and questions that we need to maybe, or topics, units that we need to do better. So with this, you can see Unit 5, we scored the RIC by 13.9%.
Can I ask a quick question? Yeah, RIC, is it Regional Convention Center?
Yeah.
So it's all the other counties, statewide,
So this
district
is
towns?
all of CO BOCES plus all of OCM BOCES. So this isn't the embargoed data. We can't talk about that yet, which kids passed, what the district pass rate is. This is data about how each kid did on every question by question. And we can look at that, averaging all of the kids for the whole district and comparing that to other districts. So our pool does include the RIC, OCM, and CO BOCES. So that's Casanova, Fayetteville, Manlius, Jamesville, DeWitt, as well as Moravia, Jordan, Elbridge, Auburn on our side of town. All of those lumped together. So when we're looking at the RIC percent, that's a huge sample size of thousands of students. That's sort of telling us how hard the questions are. If that many kids get it wrong across the entire RIC, it's a really hard question. If everybody gets it right across the entire RIC, it's a really easy question. So when we compare our percent to the RIC percent, we're seeing how much we outperform based on how easy or hard the question is. We're controlling for how easy or hard it is. And as Margaret was just saying, you can see we outperformed the RIC by the most on Unit 5, so that was an area of celebration for us. And I'll kick it back to Margaret from there.
It's very cumbersome, so that's why Brian does all the math spreadsheets. And we listen, and then we get here and we say, okay, we did great in Unit 5, so what are we doing well and what can we continue to do well? And then in Unit 4, 4, which is our geometry unit, that was our lowest gap. So we then looked at individual released questions from Unit 4, why, and then we, as teachers, but we discuss and look at how the questioning is related to the units that we're teaching and what can we do to make it better. So what we then did from there, our strengths were Unit 5, which is place value, representing and interpreting data. Our weakness was in geometry, specifically angles, and multiplying a 4-digit number by a 1-digit number. We teach that early in the year, but in the same sort of realm, one of the highest scores was multiplying a 2-digit number by a 2-digit number. So we looked at, well, they're both multiplication problems, so why are we maybe scoring less in one of these? And so we, in our 4th grade discussion, identified that a strategy used for the 2-digit by 2-digit is used universally by the majority of the students versus the multiply 4-digit by 1-digit. There's a variety of strategies which offered possible avenues of figures. So from there, we all discussed possibly using the same strategy or really encouraging students to use a strategy that they feel more successful in. And then we also incorporated more review into our ongoing and review assessment pages that we use pretty much daily. So yeah, I think that's it.
And thank you, Margaret. And I just, from all of that, I just want you to see, we're not just looking at the data to pat ourselves on the back or kick ourselves in the butt. What we're trying to do is identify ways we can get better all of the time. No matter how successful we are, there's always spots that you can get better. We're just looking for the data to tell us where those spots are, so we can then, data has no meaning until we ascribe it meaning, right? So we're using those numbers to shine a spotlight in certain areas. The adults are talking about it, trying to give it meaning, and figure out what we can do differently and try better next year. So next year's 4th graders do a little better with angles than last year's 4th graders did, times every grade level.
So which begs the question, if you look at this data from last year, can you see where our modified strategies showed improvement in this year's data?
Yeah, so there was actually, thank you. That's an exciting question because I love talking about this.
Set up my place.
I'll lie in very later. Nobody doing it. So last year was a little weird, so I'm going to start with a disclaimer that last year's state test was different. It was an abbreviated state test, only multiple choice questions, all of them previously released. So every item asked in 2021 had already been asked in 2019, 18, or 17. There was like nothing our kids hadn't seen while they were reviewing for the test. I don't mean like they saw the topic, I mean they read that exact question. So it was a little hard to interpret that data and give it any real, like it wasn't reliable or valid data. But one of the things we focused on a bit this past summer had been fact work and fractions at 3rd grade. So fact work at Waterman with addition and subtraction facts, and then multiplication in 3rd and 4th grade. And then our fractions unit had been identified as a unit we wanted to play with in 3rd grade. I'll add to it measurement conversions in 5th grade at State Street also. Hard to sift out the facts yet. They're not assessed on a state test because state tests are untimed and you can't assess fact fluency on an untimed test. So that one, this just isn't the right data to tell us whether that worked or not. On the fractions in 3rd grade and measurement conversions in 5th, we hit a home run in 5th grade. The measurement conversions went from the weakest blink for years running to one of our strengths this year, which was awesome. Fractions, not so much. Fractions at 3rd grade, we split the unit in half, put time in between them, thinking that maybe the time, like, get kids to this level, let that marinate for a little while, practice it for a unit, then come back and build on it a little bit later. That was the idea we were going for. We moved really slowly last year, probably in large due to COVID and gaps caused by it. What happened was the second half of the fractions unit got pushed to be directly before the state test. And I mean, we ate up all the time that had been budgeted for review for the state test. We were still teaching that fraction stuff. We didn't get those days for review. We were behind. Everything just took a little longer last year than we're used to. So we didn't see a slip on the fractions, but we didn't see the gains we were expecting on the fractions either. When we talked about that this summer, when we saw the data on it, we were all a little disappointed. Not everything works out the way you thought. What are you going to do? We're not going to cry about it. We're going to talk about it. And we're going to see what we need to change. And what we decided was we're actually going to let it ride a little bit here. We got it to move up on the calendar a little bit earlier, so it won't be rushed up against the state test. We also think that just because it's not the year after COVID, we won't be moving quite so slowly, and that will help. And we're, again, somewhat cautiously optimistic that splitting these 2 units and then having additional time to practice fractions part B after the unit, but before the state test, will give the kids an opportunity to sort of solidify that information, that knowledge, those skills, and maybe be a little more successful next year. But yeah, that just goes to show you no matter how many times we cut the data, it doesn't always work out the way you hope, right?
Right, but the important thing is that your strategy keeps evolving and it's informed by the data that you have.
Oh yeah.
So, come this time next year, we'll see how effective it was, right?
Yeah, and if it doesn't work again, I won't be standing up here next year telling you we decided to let it ride again. I'll be coming up here and saying, new plan! Here's what we're trying now. But that was why we decided that one this time. And I do thank you. I mean, we really are, if nothing else, I hope you get the idea of how data-driven we are and reflective we are in trying to make sure that we're giving high-quality instruction for our kids every day. Our old learning isn't some of the times all of the time for all of us. That includes our administrators and our teachers, even over the summer vacation.
Two quick things. Does anybody else have a question? Okay. The Ready to Rise, isn't it the first? It's on the first. It's for the math and reading out for the summer.
Yeah.
Were your numbers consistent with what they have been, or were they higher? Still coming off of that COVID, a few gaps of learning. Did you have more students than normal, or?
Enrollment in Ready to Rise is probably, look, we've only done it for 2 years, so
Oh,
that's
okay.
normal.
Okay.
So it's hard to say what normal is, and the last year we did it was a COVID year also.
Okay.
It was probably relatively consistent, and you'll see attendance data. The first year we did, I'm going to be honest, and I'll put up the slides and let Kelly Sears talk about our program in a second. But the first year we did it, we didn't keep good data on it. We were doing everything we could to come up with a curriculum. We had never done this before.
Right.
We didn't have teachers. We didn't know whether we were going to provide transportation. We didn't have materials. We had no curriculum. It was like, great, we have permission to bring the kids in. Now what are we going to do with them? And that was what we were worried about in year 1. In year 2, we got a little bit better. We had some idea of what we were going to do with the kids. And now it was like, okay, how do we do it a little better than we did last year? And what data do we want so I can stand up at the board and share it, at the end of this, and you'll see some of that. And I'll tell you, I had the conversation for the last week with several teachers. If we ever do it again, which is an if, the money that sort of paid for it was relief funds that are drying up. So if we ever do it again, there are already ways in which I would sort of standardize the data collection and the attendance to be able to better track across all grades and all subjects. So it's a little
to your
hard
point
to
on
answer.
if you do it again, will you be tracking tracking loosely not like they'll be, walking around with like a flag like I did Ready to Rise, but
Yeah.
monitoring them this year to
Yeah,
say, wow, here was 2 students that were equal last June. One did the summer program, one did not. The one that did
what happens? Yeah.
had better learning strategies or note-taking or whatever they had, just to see if it actually is having some impact on them, so that at the end of this June, is that same student ready to go free, or
So
are they going to do it again, or what?
let me go to your next question, because I want to see if some of the next slide sort of answers some of that.
Yes,
There is some data, and I will come back to it at the end when it makes more sense to you to give my full answer to that. It won't look exactly like you're talking about it, but if we did it again, yes, we'll be able to better track what the payout was, how much did that kid in fact grow. Can I stand up to the board and say, I'd like to humbly ask you to continue funding this even without relief money, because here's some data on who was there, how many were there, what their attendance was like, and how much they got from the opportunity to work with a teacher in that small group over the summer.
That
It's hard to-
attendance piece was really critical this summer, because we saw some disjointed attendance. We had vacations and other
I see it.
camps and other things like that really
Hard
sort
to
of,
compete.
well, and when the teachers are really thoughtfully scaffolding a curriculum for the summer, and kids are popping in and popping out, it makes it really difficult to break everybody through a body.
Yeah, there were grades with 60% attendance, and so if you're talking about 10 sessions and your average kid is there for 6 of them, it gets really hard. Like every kid is missing 4 sessions. It's hard to do session 3 if half of your class was out for session 2, and you can't do session 3 if it builds on session 2.
But I guess the learning in that's probably always going to happen in a summer program. So what is the goal? Is it improvement? Is it just gained confidence in some fundamentals?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm still trying to figure out what half of those math things up there are, because I don't think I would pass the test right now. But I would be interested at a high level in June to have you come back here and give us some insight on, even if it's just that kid walks in
First,
super pumped every day.
anytime.
That's what
And
I'm
second, let's take a look at some of the data that I can share with you and go from there.
Yeah.
So with that, I will kick it to Mrs. Sears.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly Sears. I'm your UPK teacher, but over the summer I did 4th grade Ready to Rise. So I did ELA and math, so an hour of ELA, an hour of math. I did ELA by myself. I did have a coworker, Monique Bryan, who's a 4th grade teacher. I went to her to see what she thought 4th graders really need to work on as far as ELA. And she said constructive response and reading comprehension is where she really thought I should focus. So that's what I did. I had 8 students on a full day, but like you just said, attendance was not good. So I had only full 8 students, maybe 2 weeks out of the whole summer. The rest of the time was 6 students. With that being said, smaller groups kind of work better. We made those connections and relationships. I was able to really differentiate for the students, and I saw some growth. We did not get any data. Data for ELA is a little more difficult. I did writing samples. I saw growth myself, but to put a score on a writing sample was more difficult. So that's what I did for ELA.
And sorry, I'm just gonna really quick. Kelly said that she had 8 students. It says 12 here. The difference is Betsy Smith also works with 4 other 4th grade kids, so we did try to keep this group small during the school year. If you're in a tier 2 or 3 intervention, we deliver those in small groups. All of these students were invited because they needed intervention. We tried to run it like we would run an intervention during the school year. Small groups, explicit instruction, very focused, and that's why Kelly's class size was small and the other 4 kids were with Betsy Smith. And that's true of the other grades also, that it was small group instruction. It might have been more than 1 teacher delivering it in order to keep those groups the size it would be during the school year of an intervention.
Yeah, Betsy really focused on reading. She had lower level kids who were still focusing on phoneme awareness, whereas I had a little bit higher level. So we really went into the reading comprehension and writing. We used Storyworks, which is a scholastic program for ELA. For math, I do have data. Thank you, Mr. Cohen. So math, I had 6 students on a full day. Most of the time it was 4. The great thing about my group was 5 out of my 6 students for math were also in my ELA group. So that relationship and connection really built throughout the summer. I had 2 full hours with them twice a week, so we really got to know each other. We use the curriculum Do the Math for summer school, Ready to Rise. This is a program that the students, I would say most, if not all, use during the school year as an intervention program. They were familiar with it. We didn't have to learn routines. The games that we play in there, the terminology, they were already familiar with that, so that was awesome. The other great thing about Do the Math is it gives us data. So to start Do the Math, you do a beginning of module assessment. If kids fall below a tier level, they would go down to module A, which is what I taught. If they hit kind of the median, they would stay with Monique Bryant, who she did module B, and then if they were to get perfect, they would go on to module C and on higher level stuff, but we got that. You can see our pre-test was 79% for 4th grade, and we did get up to 86%, and we did see growth in every grade level except for grade 3, which we don't have data on. So in my opinion, the small group sizes, when we do have attendance, I know my student who was there every single day of the summer school program, they really grew the most out of all of them. So attendance is key. Obviously it's summer, not everybody's going to go every single day, but I thought it was great.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And so we were able to, because it wasn't our first time doing it, we were able to really build on some of the things that we had done last year, maybe just do them a little more effectively, gather more data, use this intervention that we were just newly implementing last school year, which was great. I love that we can see that all of our kids grew. We were able to identify one target area, one big topic to focus on in each grade level. It was a priority. We didn't pick something that was like, it would be great if kids knew that, geometry stuff or that, measurement stuff. We picked like the must topics at each grade level, and we zeroed in on it to try to better prepare kids to feel more successful and comfortable in their regular classroom this coming school year. So as a result of giving us a little bit of their time over the summer, where we tried to make it fun for them too, they're going in with a little more confidence and a little more ready to rise to the next grade level. And we have data to say, and they did grow as a result of it. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more growth, but every grade did grow. I can imagine that with better attendance, we might have grown a little bit more. We're also talking about a population of kids who are taking these pre and posts who are very up and down on their tests. They're not all good test takers. It's not always the only way for them to show what they know or the best way for them to show what they know. But we want some way of measuring whether what we're doing is working. So it's what we have. 3rd grade was interesting. It was just a fluke of, I'm going to admit, we have people delivering the interventions who aren't the normal people who give the interventions, and so what wound up happening was on a pre-test. It was, students were given multiple days and over a very extended period of time to do something that was not supposed to be, a unlimited amount of time test. But we realized that and fixed it for the post-test. The downside there is now I don't have an apples to apples number if I gave you an hour and a half over a 2-week period of time to do a pre-test. That's not really a pre-test anymore. And then I'm comparing your results on a half-hour time thing afterwards. We made mistakes. It happens. We're not perfect, and we hadn't done it before. This teacher was not an interventionist. We learned, but that data wasn't really super useful, so I left it out. So there's the fluke. I'm just going to own it. I found I should have been more explicit with my instructions as I was trying to help teachers get up and running on this. I didn't think to talk about that. Oops. I will do better next year. In general, our kids grew, and we're very happy about that. Any other questions here? So I do want to just cycle back to Danielle then. So a hard part for me would be to be able to compare 2 kids who started in about the same place, one who got Ready to Rise and one who didn't, and to be able to say with a degree of confidence that Ready to Rise contributed to this kid's growth because they grew more than this other kid. I could do that with a really large sample size if I had a lot of kids in Ready to Rise and a lot of kids not in Ready to Rise who started in about the same spot. That would totally work. We're so small.
Yeah.
Some of these sizes, I'll tell you some of these numbers we're talking about. Out of this, I'm making this up, but out of this 13 kids, this might only be based on 5 of them because the other 8 either took the pre but not the post, or took the post but not the pre, or took neither because our attendance was only 73%. So I could only include your data if you took both of them. And there was, I don't know which grade it was, I don't know that it was 4th, but there was a grade that only had 5 kids who took both. Our sample size is so small.
I guess
It's
that
hard.
I totally get that, and this goes counter to
Yeah.
that math guy up here, but I would almost say too, especially for the 4th and 5th graders who are a little bit older, even just asking them, when they're starting school tomorrow, do you feel better? Like, how do you feel about going into math this year? If you knew that that was a
Yeah.
big concern, stress point for them last year, did this just make them feel better? Maybe they're not going to show you a 7-point gain, but if they march
Two of my
in with some
teachers,
confidence,
yeah.
to me, then that's worth it.
2 of my teachers couldn't help but share that when I sat down with them trying to gather this data. They can't stop themselves but bragging about a couple of the kids and how much it's not. For me, I want to be able to share a summary of did we grow or not, right? Are we going to invest the money again in the future or not? And the anecdotes about one kid here and one kid there, they're sticky, but I don't know that I want to invest tens of thousands of dollars based on one teacher's anecdote about one kid. But I will share that at least two teachers could not help but brag and share stories about, one was a younger, it was a Waterman teacher, who works with kids going into 3rd grade, so outgoing 2nd graders, and the other one was a State Street teacher who was working with students leaving 3rd going into 4th, and was just, and one more who was talking about entering 6th grade, or 5th grader going to 6th. That no matter what the numbers say, Brian, I'm telling you, this kid grew so much. Or this kid only came a few times, but the amount of times that kid said, oh, I remember that now. Or that didn't make sense during the school year, but it makes sense now. In their 3rd or 5th grade language, said things like that. That's what my teachers were like thriving on. For me, if I came back next year, what I would probably be hoping to share with you is on the ELA side. In fact, we did ORF. We gave the oral reading fluency test to a lot of our summer schools, the Ready to Rise program students. At the beginning of the program and the end of the program, I just didn't think to collect that, and by the time I asked people, they didn't have it anymore, or some of them had it, but I had it for like 1 grade. I wasn't going to put it up there for 1 grade and like leave it blank for every other grade, but that would have been something that very easily you can see: reading fluency, reading fluency, reading fluency, reading comprehension, reading fluency. Like 4 out of the 5 grades up there are attempting to work on reading fluency. I'd have you bet the last one probably was working on reading fluency. It was Kelly who stepped out. Was working on reading fluency also. This would have been a good measure that could have given us some data, and if we do it again, I'll ask for that. And we will be better about making sure more of our kids take even if they miss day 1, I need the pre-test data so that I can compare the post-test later. Even if you were absent on day 1, take it when you come in on day 2. That sort of thing. We'll be better about that. But I do think we do see some quantitative evidence of growth, and qualitatively the teachers were oozing stories of it.
Great.
And with that, we went a little longer than I would have liked, but hopefully answered a bunch of the questions. And I did want to cycle back, and I want you to hold me accountable. I said you would hear evidence of our work and our focus on relationships, connections, and learning. And that we were cultivating an inspiring place to learn, grow, work, and live. And I hope as you just think about our summer camps, our summer Ready to Rise program, and our summer curriculum work, you can see the passion and the time and the dedication of the teachers who didn't take a summer vacation, who worked with our students on extracurricular fun stuff, on helping struggling learners, and on their own professional learning so they can come back next year able to work a little smarter than last year. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you to the teachers that came tonight. I know it's kind of like your last night of freedom, and it's nice to hear it from your perspective as well, because you guys are the ones doing the work, and so we hear a lot of presentations with a lot of great data, but it's nice to hear it directly from you guys, because you're often the ones that are executing it or implementing it and working directly with the students. So thanks for coming tonight.
Sincere thanks, and all of you have school tomorrow, so don't feel rude.
Yeah, get up, go.
Before we move into the
Go back to lunch. Boy, ready for school. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Up next, we've got, do you have anything else?
Take the bus.
Yeah, take the bus. Any board members have any other questions for Eric before we pass it over to Connor?
No.
I just had one for you. What was our final kindergarten count number? And you or Pat can answer this.
102.
At least as of tonight.
101 as of today. As of today at 7:55.
All right, awesome. Great, well, I'm excited to see your face all over the school webpage tomorrow, shaking the
I'm gonna
hand.
ask for those pictures though to be, I have to get clearance, because I don't love every picture that I see. I'll talk to the photographer. Anyway, yes, we'll have a wonderful time in the morning.
It's gonna be great.
Excited, yeah.
It's gonna be great. All right.
Thank you all as well, and I know you're being very polite right now. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for all.
Oh, taking every first day of school smiles
I
on.
appreciate you guys being
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Have a great first day of school.
We will. Thank you, guys. Brian, thanks
Thank
for
you, Brian.
connecting everything so deliberately back to our strategic plan as well.
I tried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you. All right, if nobody has any other questions for Eric, I'm going to toss it over to Connor for the business manager report.
Thank you. Just a few updates for me. Last meeting, I talked about, because we had this presentation tonight, architects and Turner coming to the next meeting. So just a little capital project update, see where our investment went, of $36.5 million almost. Before, after, good, bad, and ugly. We'll show you all the good, we'll show you what we can do better, next time. But just putting in confirmation for that for next meeting on the 4th. ADF meeting is tentatively scheduled for the week of the 26th. We haven't met in a bit, so we're going to kind of dive into a lot. Some of the big topics are going to be a review of the audit. So we just got that last week. The treasurer and I are going through that, going through all the 62 pages of numbers, just verifying, making sure everything's right. What we have on our books compares to theirs. Talk about the strategic plan, introduce that to the ADF, see where they can help, whether it's reserve planning, fund balance management, forecasting, investing in human capital. So the ADF, I think, can play, especially communication, since we adopted that part of the committee, what we can do better, how we can play their role as community members. Again, the audit was planned. Michael San from Grossman and St. Maur should be at that meeting as well, just making sure the number matches. So it's the week of the 26th. Just waiting on a final date. So we are reviewing the audit internally. And then next board meeting, I'm also going to bring a budget calendar that outlines everything throughout the year, what I'm presenting throughout the year, where we're projecting, what teachers come say, we need this, how that kind of fluctuates, building into the strategic plan. cap review. In just a few months, we'll be in January, so we'll have the initial state aid run. So just adopting that budget calendar, it's going to be almost no time before we know it, so.
We can get through day one tomorrow, Connor.
I've had conversations with several board members about getting back onto that normal school budget calendar with COVID and some of the federal funding and some of those, 11th hour opportunities that we had. We wanted to start the year getting very much back on that traditional budget calendar. So thanks for doing that, Connor.
Yeah, and then just for the construction presentation next time, we'll talk about what's projected to be done in this next project, what that timeline looks like, logistically what we can do better. Like I said, it wasn't perfect, there was delays, but there's a lot of good stuff that happened too. So it's like you guys said, not it all. What we could do better, what we did well. So hopefully that'll be on board.
Okay. Questions for Connor? I just had one. Now that we are back to a paid lunch program and the federal free lunch is over, students or families that filled out the application for free and reduced lunch, that is a rolling process. So if they did not do it for the school year, but their circumstances changed in October or November or even January, they can apply at any time in the school year.
Absolutely. And we
Okay.
encourage people to apply. I know there's a stigma out there that people don't want to be tagged with it, but that's there for a reason. So.
And if it's not too much of a lift, I would almost ask you and or our lunch director if you feel like the numbers are lower than what you've normally had for participation,
Sure.
which would be surprising because a lot of people are in tougher economic situations right now. Maybe in another week or two, when there's a few less parents' card notifications going out on the daily, we could just send out a reminder to families that says something to that effect. It's still a open process if you need help.
Now, don't they just have to say their name at the?
No, they have to fill out an application.
No. When they're buying their lunch, don't
Yes.
they just say their name at the?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
technically, a student standing next to them would know that they weren't paying for
Yeah,
it.
it's all done through codes or
It's all
Okay,
on the
so
POS.
there would be no,
no stigma.
okay, that's what I'm.
No statement to the students, but sometimes families feel the stigma of, the parents
Oh,
feel
sure.
the stigma of asking. So
Totally get it.
anything that we can do to just let them know it's still an option. The last thing that we want is a student that is hungry, because no student that's not having breakfast or lunch is going to perform well in school or sports or anything, because they're just going to be too busy being angry. So that is totally avoidable, and anything we can do to encourage participation if needed, let's do it.
And no matter what, even if you are not free and reduced, you can always have a lunch. It's just the peanut butter jelly and more of a basic lunch, but there's always something for somebody to eat, for sure.
Thanks. Anything else for Connor? All right. No more questions. We will move on. Next item up is new business, and I am going to group A, B, and C together. Item A is retirement, resignation, and leave. It is for the resignation of Rebecca York, effective September 2nd, the resignation of Holly Burrows, effective August 31st. Under item B, substitute and temporary appointments, we have Derek Fisher as a substitute custodial worker, Sabrina Albring as a substitute food service worker, Peggy Murphy, substitute food service helper, Mary Ann Mead, substitute teacher and teacher assistant, John Ederer, substitute teacher, Joe Walsh, substitute teacher and tutor. And under item C, probationary and permanent appointments, we have probationary appointment of Susan Mallory as a teaching assistant, Julie Corbett, food service helper, probationary appointment of John Wheeler, custodian, and Douglas Hulse, teacher aide bus attendant, Patricia Donahoe. This is the permanent appointment of Patricia Donahoe, who is our tenured teacher who holds a certification in math 7 through 12. Can I get a motion on those appointments and resignations?
So moved.
Second. First by Carrie, seconded by Tanya. All those in favor of approving all of those individuals, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one passes. We will move on to item D, which is the strategic plan. Does this have to be a name individual vote?
Nope.
Or this could be a group vote? Okay. So this is a motion. Can I get a motion to approve the district strategic plan that is attached in our board packet?
So moved.
First by Amanda.
Second.
We'll give this one to Dan. Second by Dan. Any discussion on this item? Questions for Eric?
Just want to say a huge thank you to the board, huge thank you to our teachers and administrative team members that participated, and to the community, and to Kevin McGowan for facilitating what traditionally can be pretty long, painful processes into something that distilled down, I really think captures the spirit of this place and what makes Skinniana so special. So thank you.
And the strategic plan is posted on our website, or it will be after
As soon as
tonight?
you approve it.
Okay. So when that gets posted to the website, it will be available for any community members that want to read through it. Learn more about it. We did talk about it at our last board meeting as well. If anybody wants to go back and watch the video.
It's on board docs.
It's on board docs as well. So there's plenty of places to find it, but take a look at it. There's a lot of group effort put into it and some good content that came out of it. So
I just want to say before you move on that, when I reflect on the process, last November, we had set out a timeline, we had gone through that. Then, because you had a lot of a lot of board members in particular that kept on beating the drum, you kept on saying, hey, let's get it done, give us some timelines, let's keep the process moving forward. And you persevered. And you went out and you found different resources, and we kept coming back at you, well, June is right around the corner, the school term is going to be over, what's happening? And then we persevered, and then we said that, hey, summer, we're going to bring different, how are we going to get all these disparate community members together? And we persevered, and then here we are today, approving a strat plan that really has had the process has felt good. And I'll give you kudos, Eric.
Thank you.
And the board at large for making it happen, for letting it come to fruition. And I trust and hope that same sort of stick-to-itiveness, the same sort of challenge, the internal challenges and accountability that we demonstrated during the last 10 months, 11 months, also kicks in as we actually live the process of the strat plan. Because it's a great document, and I think we have an awesome board before us right now with good leadership that we can make sure that strat plan adds value to the district for the next several years.
Yeah.
So
So what I'd like to say too is, if you heard Carrie and Danielle speak opening day, they were talking about relationships, connections, and learning. Our teachers here tonight were talking about relationships, connections, and learning. That drum that we've been pounding for the last year as we've developed this stuff, those core values, you hear it, people are talking about it. And I think that's the difference between a plan, a binder that's set on a shelf, and something that really captured what is special about a community, what we value, and we're living. So,
and ownership seems to reside in the right place. Ownership is not yours, it's the entire leadership team and district, and I think it resides in the right place. So our job is to make sure that we keep fueling that fire and making sure that it lives up to the full potential that it just seems to have.
thank you for saying that, appreciate that.
And I think to your point, Gary, we are going to, it is great. Kudos for getting it done and everyone coming together, but we are expecting those updates that we talked about. So I think the first one is sometime in the first quarter. It's not quite next month. I think it's November, December. You look at the
And
calendar.
I think that was what is important too, is it's not done. It's that we have a starting point, and it's something we revisit continuously.
And I think as a board, it is our job, and you and the rest of the leadership team should expect, we will continue to push and push on you and say, that was good, but was it the best you could do for that component? Some of these items are immediate, some of these are 4.5 years from now. But of those different elements, are we doing the best we can with the things that we can do at this crossroads?
Yeah.
In this short time frame, and what's coming next, and how are we handling that? And hopefully we can continue to push each other, because in doing so, ultimately all of our students are going to benefit. And it's going to be really awesome to watch if it comes out the way that it is planned and the way that nice neat little binder, has it laid out, you know, over the next couple of years, it could be a really great time for our students.
You know, even tonight, hearing already about a focus on developing human capital and the relationships and enthusiasm of the teachers working with kids. Those are, I will shamelessly continue to plug our focus areas and the items that the community put together and displayed and point them out specifically as we encounter them. So that's what those regular updates will be. What have we done? What are we still working on? What other opportunities have we identified? What areas of growth have we identified? Things that we
And also don't be afraid to say, and this part is so much harder than we thought it was on that pretty paragraph.
Yeah.
This is where we are struggling. This is where we either need more help, more resources, more time. Because it would be magical if the whole thing works out, but the reality is there might be some parts that don't execute as well as we envisioned on the paper. And that is okay, and that is sort of to be expected with any of these things. What's not okay is not being upfront about it. So
Yeah.
we ask you, we ask your whole leadership team, just say, we're struggling in this part. And I think it's a great example for our students and our staff to see some of those admissions if you should encounter those roadblocks.
When you encounter them, you will encounter them. You
Yeah,
absolutely
right.
will.
Speed bumps are,
You know.
yeah.
And we've got a TA that will support that. We've demonstrated by virtue of the structure that we've authorized, that we've executed on. We've got the right folks in the right positions relative to their capacity. So if you just reflect for a second, we've stacked the deck in a certain way to facilitate the success of it. And we'll continue to do so as long as we know that folks everyone's getting their bang for their buck and getting the results.
Yeah.
We're getting the results and we're agile so that we can turn as things change, because things will change.
Yeah.
And it's not a failure thing, it's how quickly we can adapt to influence the outcome. And that's what I think every last member of this board is about.
Yeah.
Right? So you have that support, so charge on.
So get to work.
Job well done.
Yeah.
Take
Good
board
job.
and tell.
Yes. Thanks for all that. All right, so if there are no further questions? No? Everyone in favor of approving the strategic plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next item, we have our school safety plan. This is a standalone item as well. This is in the attachments. The board has a version. Is there a different version that is posted on public board docs?
So there's what we have to submit to the state, that certain aspects of it are kept confidential, certain aspects of it are public. There is a piece that is posted on the website that is public as far as procedures for kids and things like that. But the board has access to the full plan that for security reasons is not shared publicly.
Okay, perfect.
This is required by New York State every year by October that a school district submit and have a safety plan approved.
Can I get a motion on the school safety plan?
So moved.
First by Dan, second by Tanya. Any discussion on the school safety plan?
I would just say, same iterative process that we're using for the strategic plan. We met earlier, so I could share some of this with the board. I will continue to do so that we can talk about chipping away, constantly improving, to make sure our kids have the best learning environment possible.
And I would just add to that, it is important for community members to realize that although there may be aspects of the safety plan that we don't talk about out here, it does not mean we don't talk about them. But in the interest of student safety and building security and all of the things that entails, some of that material must remain confidential. So
I'd also want to highlight too that we work with the industry experts, we work with the state police, we use the Secret Service to develop protocol, we work with the local police, we have personal relationships with these people so that they know us, they know our buildings, they know our procedures, they know our people. So in the event of an emergency, they have all of the information and access that they require to assist as quickly as possible.
But additionally, it's a community-wide effort. Talk to your kids. If you're out in the community, if you're at a game somewhere, something's not sitting right, a door is
report it.
Someone that doesn't look like
There,
they're
something's
a
not feeling
normal.
right, report it,
You know,
contact Aaron.
as a school community, some of the things that we've been able to intervene on behalf of kids happen every time because somebody cared enough to say something. And please continue to do so. Thanks, Ben.
Great point, great point. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of passing the school safety plan, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes. Next, we're gonna go into items F, G, and H, and we're gonna group those together. Item F is the reserve funding. Board of Education approves funding of the following reserves through unassigned fund balances from the 21-22 school year, which is the teacher retirement sub-fund reserve for $246,749.58. And any remaining fund balance will be classified as an unassigned fund balance. Item G is the BOCES transportation contracts. Board of Education approves the transportation contracts with Cayuga Onondaga. Cayuga Onondaga BOCES, Standby Regional Education Center, and Standby 12-1 Program Shuttle. And item H is the CSE, CPSE, and 504 reports that are included in our board and packets for board members only. Can I get a motion on those three items?
So moved. Second.
First by Amanda, second by Carrie. Any discussion on anything in there?
So kind of with the BOCES contracts, those, we get paid for those buses if they use those?
Yes.
Okay.
So Connor, on the reserve funding, that's, explain that, just take 2.5 minutes to explain that if you would.
2.5, I'm clocking you.
Yeah, so last meeting I went over to the fund balance, what we're projecting, we're at about $1.1 million. We have fully filled, we have fully filled our capital reserves. We have fully filled our ES reserve, and our TS reserve was the only one that was not filled, but all we can do is fund 2% of that for 5 years, up to 10% of the previous year's salaries, and that's what we've been doing for 4 years. So we have one more, and then we'll keep adding to that a little bit more as that 10% increases a little bit. With the unassigned fund balance, every district is here. I talk to my colleagues weekly on what they're doing. They're in the same boat. Some of them are putting in a reserve and just pulling it right out, which is just kind of meaningless in my eyes, but it's classified as unassigned fund balance now. And then with ABF, we will have that fund balance reserve plan on how to spend those down. We are flush right now because these federal funds are as heavy as they have been, but they will not continue like that. For example, we have to pay for lunch again. It's all going to start falling off. So it's more tiered. Next year, CRSA, and the following year, ARP is falling off. So with ABF, we'll be planning on what to do with that. These initiatives, Ready to Rise, do we want to keep funding that? Do we want to keep these reading teachers and other intervention teachers? Keep UPK? Make it bigger or what? But there'll be a fund balance management plan when these funds dry up and going forward.
Okay. 10 seconds. Okay, awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions on any of those three items? Okay, all those in favor of passing F, G, and H, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes as well. We're now on to closing items, which is process review. And the first thing of the process review is just our committee assignments. I sent the board members today an email with a list of committees just so they had some time to mull over what committees they wanted to be on. Just a reminder, we can have up to 3 members on a committee, so somewhere between 2 and 3, but no more than 3 board members on any single committee because then we are suddenly in a quorum and then that's a little predicament for us. So, standing committee, audit, budget, finance, that's settled. That's Danielle, Gary, and Tim are going to do the ABF committee. It is like where the party is at. Spreadsheets, and more spreadsheets, courtesy of Connor.
Sorry, say Gary, say
Danielle, me. I'll give you the list if you want, if that's easier. Our other committees are the policy committee, strategic planning, curriculum instruction, and student support, which is a newly formed committee. Kristen Moses is kind of our lead administrator on that committee. So let's start with policy. I've got Danielle and Amanda for that. If someone else is dying to join, you're welcome. Otherwise, we can function with two.
Can you just explain a little bit what, like each of the next four?
So policy committee, if, for example, last year we had to update, or was it last spring, we updated our no smoking policy to include specifically spell marijuana, even though because it's now legal. It said no smoking on campus, so we revised the policy. Typically, if there is a policy that needs to be created for something that is new, we can tap into NISBA. They've got a framework. For example, I shared at the last meeting, they've got a framework for donations that will be our starting point. We will tweak it. So the policy committee will come up with the final version of that specific for our district. They will present it to the board and say, here's the policy that we've created. We do a read through. The board as a whole at a public board meeting can say, I agree with that, or that's too specific, or I hate the whole thing. And then there's a second reading the following month, and we vote on approving it. So the policy committee just narrows it down and gives you a pretty close to the final version to review and consider. It's not a super intensive committee because a lot of the policies are already set. So it's tweaking and updating ones that we have as we encounter social changes that require a more current version, depending on the last time they were created. So that's policy committee. Strategic planning is different than the strategic plan we just approved.
Yeah.
That is more.
It's very much more about future facilities planning, a timeline for additional capital project work, things that are, when does the building addition survey happen again, and really sort of planning the next capital improvements of the district.
Policy committee does not involve members of the public. It is just board members. Strategic planning committee is both board members and members of the public, members of the community. Curriculum and instruction committee is just what it sounds like. And that involves administrators, teachers.
A lot of it was in answer to an opportunity to information shared with the community, and in that community, they're not making curriculum decisions. That still resides with the district and then is put to the board for approval. But if there are questions, concerns, new processes, procedures, programs, curriculums that we're going to roll out, we will usually do that through that committee. So wit and wisdom, for example, is something that we have rolled out through that committee.
And then the last committee is student support, which is a newly formed committee and will probably evolve and tweak as it evolves, but that is, last year it started with a series of mental health roundtables, and then from that there were some action items that came out of that. And so the exact structure of that committee is probably, again, like I said, evolving. Because
it'll be similar to how the mental health community forums were last year. What was really nice is we got a lot of student interest, and so we had students that sat in on that committee as well, which was unique to our committee structure. But we have a collection of really interested parents and students right now that intend to keep this going.
I don't know what is under the last two, but I wouldn't mind being on the last two, the curriculum one and the.
Okay, I will put you down. So for curriculum and instruction, I have Amanda and Tanya. For student support, I have Carrie and Tanya. Gary, I have you on ADF. Do you want to jump on another one too? Ideally, 3 board members on a committee because there's always stuff in life, and if one board member can't come, there's always backup. And I know you travel a lot, but I'll go on whatever, Gary, I'll go on whatever you pick as another one if you want, and then you can be my backup if I can't go.
Sometimes your skill sets really land people in the right place. Gary with audit, budget, finance. Carrie with student support services, things like that.
You can
strategic planning too.
Well, Dan, I've got you on strategic planning.
Strategic planning.
You want to pick another?
And then student support.
Okay. So I got 3 for student support, strategic planning. Gary, can can I put you on that? You look like you're about to say yes, I can see
Yeah,
it.
but how many you got? I'm sorry.
On strategic planning, I just have Dan.
Let me acquiesce to Tanya. You had something to say?
No, I think.
Oh,
No, she's
okay.
already on to you, buddy.
She's giving me
I'm
this.
looking at
Oh,
you. I'm putting you down
Back to
on
that
strategic planning.
Well, no. Before you
I
do
just thought I
that.
would do that, no.
Right. So who do you have so far? Dan, you're on strat plan.
Okay, I'll give you the rundown here, the whole list,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Just to
Policy is Danielle and Amanda.
Right.
ADF is Danielle, Gary, and Tim.
Right.
Strategic plan is Dan, Gary, maybe Tim. How about Tim on strategic planning? Great.
Okay. Then I want to.
And Amanda and Tanya, and Carrie and Tanya on the last two, and Dan on student support as well.
Okay. I want to do curriculum and instruction.
Oh, you don't want to do strategic planning?
No. I can do
Okay.
that. I can fill in there as well. If
Oh, no, I'll
if
take
you
that one.
request.
I'll take it, no
We
problem.
divvy it up between us so we can be each other's backup depending. All right.
You got it. I'll give you this list of my chicken scratch when I'm done. All right, so what will happen now is nothing. You just sit tight. You do not need to do anything. The board member is not the lead member of that committee. There's an administrator that is the lead on these various committees, whether it's Eric or one of the other administrators. They'll send out a note that will include board members and or community members based on the committee and say, here's where we're gonna meet, and take it from there. Okay? Next item up, we have an agenda planning session for the October 4th meeting, which will take place on Tuesday, September 27th, or Thursday, the 29th, if either of those days work on anybody's calendar.
You can do the 27th at 4.
Okay? We got Amanda on the 27th at 4.
Cool, please.
I can do the 27th as well. Carrie, Tanya, Tim, one of you guys?
Hold on one second. I have to get to my. Hey Siri. Let's hope nothing's embarrassing.
And you know what, that's okay, you also don't have to let me know right now. You can check your calendar and shoot me a message later
Well,
and say, yes,
it
we can do
shouldn't be
it.
embarrassing, I was just teasing.
Well, but either way, it's okay, we can sort it out if you want to take a look and wait till after the, if anybody that has kids going to school this week wants to wait till after tomorrow and the next day and the dust settles before you commit to a time based on your child's life, that is also fun too.
What were the 2 days?
The 27th, we're looking at the 27th at 4 p.m.
And that's a Thursday?
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday. Okay.
But why don't we just
I'll
circle
get
back
back
at
to
the end of the week after we all know
Or-
what's going on with all of our sweet cherubs, and then we will get that settled, we'll put that on the calendar. Any other announcements? Our next board meeting, like we said, is going to be on Tuesday, October 4th at 7 p.m. right here in the district office. We're now at our second opportunity for public comment. You guys want to make a public comment? Okay, then I will skip the whole spiel. We will gloss right over that part. But thank you for coming.
I spent enough for Canada last weekend, so we're done.
All right, we're at our last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. And if I can get a motion from a board member, I would like to adjourn the meeting at 8:28.
So
I got a Tanya and an Amanda on that. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, so you can go home and pack some school lunches, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, great, let's do this. Everyone have a wonderful,
Thank you all.
wonderful first day.
Thank you, guys.